The REALME C1 is an ultra budget smartphone, and the best thing about this phone is that even though it's a budget phone, it still packs quite a lot of features, and it's amazing that you get so much in such a low price. It only costs 19,000 rupees, and in today's economy, what can you really expect in that price? In this video we will go in depth about pretty much everything about the phone and why it's such a good deal. But before we do that, I want you to subscribe to my channel. I make some great videos, and it would be really great if you go subscribe, and if you're watching on Facebook, then press the like button. Alright, let's get on with the review. Most phones that cost as much as this, they don't look very good. They don't feel really good. When you are getting such a cheap phone, good build quality and a good looking phone is pretty much out of the question. I'm a person who cares about how my gadgets look. If something doesn't fit my personality, whether it's the color or the materials, I pretty much disregard that phone as my daily driver. So this is something that I value quite a lot, and this is why I appreciate Realme so much. They are giving a crazy good looking phone with actually good build quality in this crazy low price. The bezels are really tiny and there's a notch as well as a chin, but at this price it's surprising how good the phone looks. The sides and the back are made of plastic, but it's not low quality plastic. The phone feels premium, it feels polished. The back has a glass-like finish that's very reflective. Normally I would complain that it's not real glass, but again at this price, this is miles better than what you usually get. Another thing that I find interesting is that there's no fingerprint sensor at the back. It could be a problem, but I understand that they had to cut the corners somewhere. But if you wanna show off, you can say that this phone has exactly the same number of fingerprint sensors as an iPhone. But a big payoff is that there's still face unlock, which is quite fast and accurate. So even though you don't get a fingerprint sensor, you can still unlock the phone instantly through face unlock. Overall, as you can tell, I'm surprised by how good the build quality is. It doesn't look like a phone that costs 19,000 rupees. It looks much more expensive. And if you wanna show off, I think this phone will attract quite a lot of attention. Speaking of things that surprised me, the display is another thing that impressed me. It is a 720p panel, but unlike the Oppo A7, this is a really good quality panel. If you look closely, you can see the pixels, and it's not as sharp as a 1080p panel, but in terms of color and vibrance, I'm quite happy. The colors pop, and there's quite a lot of saturation, so photos and videos look really good. The white balance is very accurate, and as the name suggests, the OS in the phone, ColorOS, is very vibrant, so it takes full advantage of the display. Overall, even though it is not a 1080p panel, it's still a pretty good display, and I think you won't have a problem with the display. When you are getting such a budget phone, you obviously need to set your expectations right. In this price, you don't get a good camera, and in this phone, the camera is pretty decent. There's a 13 megapixel primary lens and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. I'm surprised that they were able to fit a depth sensor at this price. However, when it comes to the quality, I'm very mixed. If you are in good lighting, you can manage to get actually really good photos, and the portrait mode is also decent. But if you are in mid to low lighting, the camera doesn't capture that much details. But the thing is, at this price, what can you really expect in the camera? Obviously you won't have the best camera ever. I mean, you can't even get a decent dedicated camera at this price, so I'm not too worried about the camera. For the price the phone is going on, the camera is pretty decent. When it comes to the performance, the phone is packing a Snapdragon 450 and 2GB of RAM. The thing you need to know about the Snapdragon 450 is that you need to be very well aware of its capabilities, and more importantly, its limits. If you are expecting to run any app, any game smoothly, you will obviously be disappointed. This isn't a mid-range processor. This is pretty much a low-end processor, and at least they aren't using a MediaTek processor, so that's good. So when it comes to usability, apps and games, and pretty much everything takes a bit longer to open. There's not much lag, but it does take a bit for the processor to catch up, and loading screens take longer. If you are going to use basic stuff like calls, messages, and social apps, and some light gaming, for that this is a decent processor. Yes, there are some slowdowns, but it's not too bad, and you can get the work done without any hassle. When it comes to the software, there's Android 8.1 and REALME Skin, which is called ColorOS. ColorOS is very intensive. There are a lot of animations, a lot of features, and I think that slows down the phone a bit. People talk a lot about stock Android, and I don't think stock Android is as good as it used to be back in Android Nougat days. But for this phone, I think stock Android and making this an Android One device would have been a better option. Less features, less intensive OS would have made the performance a lot smoother. So overall the performance is decent, but you need to know the limits. There is a 40 to 30 mAh battery, and that would be a huge battery capacity for any phone, but this phone is able to take much more advantage of that battery, since the processor is very light and the display is only 720p. So these things don't take as much battery to run properly. So all in all, you can get really great battery life on this phone, 2 days easily, and you can even push it to 2.5 or 3 days. So that was it. That was the REALME C1. And if you still don't think this is a great deal, let's compare it with a relatively priced Samsung phone. Around this price you get a Samsung Galaxy Grand Prime Plus, and that's just not a really good phone. It looks outdated. There's only 1.5 GB of RAM and 8 GB of storage. There are quite big bezels, and I just wouldn't want to use that phone. So overall, Realme is giving a phone that looks much more expensive. It has great build quality, an amazing battery, a pretty decent camera, and a pretty good display. I'm really impressed how much they are packing at this price in this phone. So if you are a student who just wants a phone for basic stuff, or if you are on a very limited budget and can't afford like a bigger phone, then I would recommend this phone. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.